So Hamza, just so you know, Khalid is the CTA coordinator for Asia Pacific region within Salesforce. So he plays a big role in enabling all future CTAs.
That's great.
So I'm the APAC CTA lead. So
Well,
basically,
Khalid, maybe you can talk about the program, about Bedrock, and you're probably best placed. These days, I'm only doing judging on the board. I don't even have enough time to coach, but I do judge.
That's fine. I can talk about that.
I don't think we need to talk about judging as such, but yeah, I think we can. I don't know if it's appropriate or not, but we can mention.
No, we can't talk about the process, etc. But we can say that yes, we have appeared on the board as a judge. I think that's about it, right?
Yeah, that makes sense.
All right, I think that we are on time, and so thank you so much for joining, guys, everyone. And I think that we're gonna have much more people getting started joining. Thank you everyone for joining. We have Omar Qureshi, Khalid Muhammad, and Osama Nasir, all CTS from Salesforce, joining us for our Ask to Expert sessions. And you can use the Q&A section to ask any of your question, or you can also use chat option for that. So let's get started with these guys. So I just let's start with Khalid. So you have something to share with us, right?
Yes, always. So, guys, again, Hamza, thank Hamza and the Pakistan Dreaming Team. Thank you very much for the opportunity given to us to actually talk about us. Right. So, I am a part of the ANZ Program Advisory Assurance Team. And I've been with Salesforce for about close to 6 years, and my job is to help with our large and complex customers implement their Salesforce roadmap and the Salesforce program. I am a CTA. I became a CTA in 2007, and we help other people and other architects in Salesforce also become CTAs as well.
That's really great. Actually, I'm also going to be eligible. There was one certification is left, so maybe I'll just contact you after that.
Excellent.
All right, so let's get started with the questions. I have compiled a couple of questions, so let's get started with that one. So the first question, which is very famous and probably a famous one. So right now, as you know, that most of the exams are online after this COVID, thanks to this. So what about this CTA exam? Is it also in person? Is still even the situation, although there are a lot of restrictions for the traveling? Are we doing it in person or is it online now?
Go ahead.
Khalid, do you want to take that? Yeah, sure.
Okay,
so, go ahead.
Go, Omar.
Okay, so Hamza, the exam, the Trailhead team, which is basically Salesforce's internal accreditation, or what used to be called Salesforce University, they actually adapted quite well to the pandemic, and it's all virtual now. So basically, the actual exam sort of happens in a proctored environment. Right, so you can, you can obviously take it from home, but it's in a, the prep time and the Q&A and obviously the presentation, that all happens in a virtual environment. It's actually worked out quite nicely. I think it's reduced the need to kind of completely block out a week and travel. So as a judge, you can maybe judge 1 or 2 days. It is by region, so just to make it time zone friendly. But yeah, it's been working quite well over the last year in a virtual format.
That's great.
Yeah.
So if it's virtual, so anything that any compromises that we have done, like maybe with the catalog or maybe with the overall experience. So maybe they have eased for the persons. Is there any case or not? Is it the same way that it was been doing earlier?
Salman, Khalid, do you want to have a point of view on that?
Yeah, so Osama, you take this one.
Yeah, so the difference with this virtual board is, I mean, yes, it's pretty much the same, but the difference is now that you don't have to have all the hard copies of the scenario. So previously, what used to happen when you used to go to an in-person board, you would receive all the scenario documents and other documents in a hard copy format. Now you get everything in virtual. You basically, you don't get access to those documents in your machine. You basically access the proctor's machine using your laptop to access those documents. So these are some sort of differences that are there in the current environment. But it is we are trying to make it a lot easier for candidates. So we've seen in the last year or so that a lot of candidates find it easier now accessing the scenario documents and other documents and creating the presentations as well using virtual environment.
Right. And so as you've mentioned that there's no paperwork required anymore. So are you guys using any tool for that? I mean, you have all mentioned that it was going to be a project, but is this the same criterion tool, or is this another tool that you use for that?
It's different. So we use WebEx for the video conferencing part, and then you would access Proctor's laptop using
Okay, through
WebEx,
that.
and
Okay.
then you would access PowerPoint and the Microsoft Word in Proctor's laptop. So these are the tools that we have.
All right, that's
Yeah.
great.
You could also create your own slides using A4 sheets if you want, but you would have to arrange that yourself. And then at the end, you need to scan it and then send it to the proctor, and proctor will share with the judges.
Okay, that's good to know. I mean, I didn't know about that. By the way, as the cost is so high, does Salesforce provide any coupons or discounts on that?
No. So basically, this is a very exclusive exam, right? I mean, Salesforce believes that this exam, yes, there are support, there are different supports, there are different journeys, there are different trainings available. But in terms of the costing, it's a huge cost to actually just manage the exam itself, right? So there's no discount which is available to the partner network for the part of the CTA. But I think that's a question you can always explore with the Trailhead team directly.
Yeah.
And I might just quickly explain that why is it so. So if you look at the cost of the exam, and if you look at the judges, so you have three judges involved in this exam, and all of them are CTA. So and then if you look at the cost of the CTA, it's actually, given the current market, is actually quite high, and that's why the whole process is actually a bit expensive because of the resources involved in it.
Exactly. I mean, just to add, yeah, it's the opportunity cost of having 3 judges dedicate a good portion of the day. The scenarios need to be new, so there are CTAs in the background who are writing these scenarios. I think many of the candidates who appear, they usually get sponsored by the employers. So whether it's a consultancy or an end user, they often do.
Yeah, my next question is regarding to the same scene. So, how to convince your employer to sponsor your CT exam?
Okay, that's a tough one. But the reality is that the Salesforce exam is okay. So the basic purpose of the CTA exam is to actually help our professionals and the people going through the journey to become better architects. Right. So if you are a CTA, you are going to be an amazing architect, and that's the bottom line. So basically, this journey and this exam is a testament of having those skills. So yes, in the market, there are some people who do not understand this, but we as CTAs, we understand that. We as an ecosystem, we as a Salesforce organization, we understand the value and the effort required, and of course the knowledge required for a person to get through that line, right? So there's a lot of respect for this thing, and once you have this CTA, there's an automated respect that comes to that organization as well. Right. I mean, if you look at all the seminars, all the webinars, all the Dreamforce, all the learnings and trainings that we are doing, all of those things are basically to enable better architects, right? And basically, the respect comes with it. So once you have CTAs which are part of your organization, it basically means that you are investing in them as well.
Yeah, that's a really good answer. We do have Aman with us. He might have some questions for you. Aman, you can unmute yourself and go ahead with your question.
Can I also maybe before the next question, can I also just add to something what Khalid just said?
Mm-hmm.
So I think if you are part of the Salesforce ecosystem and if you work for a partner, I think it might be a bit easier to convince to your employer, because As a partner, you get some perks from Salesforce if you have certain certified individuals in your organization. It is always difficult to convince, especially if you work for an end user or a customer directly. I think this is when it becomes more difficult because it's hard to justify the value of a CTA to your to your employer if you're working for a customer. This is a very common trend that we see here.
No,
Yeah, I
that's
mean,
true. Yeah.
just to finish off on that, it's, you know, it is the absolute pinnacle in Salesforce accreditation. It doesn't mean that your learning stops there. But it is an important milestone, and I think for your employer it'll help build, you know, if you, like you said, if you work for partner, that credibility with customers that you have. It's a very experience led exam. It's not, I think, generally, and maybe we'll get into it, something that you can just academically study for. And I can talk about my own experience when I actually had to attempt the exam twice. And the first time when I went, I felt like I when I look back, I wasn't ready, right? Because that experience element wasn't there. So I think it basically builds that competitive edge. It's an investment. It shows that you have that large, complex program experience.
Yeah.
That's great. Actually, this reminds me of my another question. So let's talk with Aman first. So Aman is saying that he is not able to hear us. Aman, I would recommend you to close your browser and try logging back again. That might help. All right. Coming back to the next question. Um, so once you became a CTA, what's next? What's your next goal, and how you keep yourself learning? I mean, what's your next goal? Actually, I believe in the Salesforce world, CTA is the head of everything. He knows everything. He's the master. He's a guru. So what's next? What keeps igniting you to learn more? Sorry, yeah.
So Hamza, there's nothing next. You're in heaven already, right? No, I'm just joking. So what I'm saying, so the CTA, it looks, so before you climb this mountain, it looks like this is the top, right? When you get on top of the mountain, you understand that you are still at the surface, right? Because the journey itself exposes you at a lot of areas and a lot of technologies that probably you were not in depth involved earlier, right? Then you find out area of specialization, number one. And number two, if you look at Salesforce in the last 5 years, right? I mean, we are growing, right? It's not only core. We are going
Yeah.
across vertical, horizontals, specialist technologies, niche technologies. So all of those things, right? So the learning never stops. But this journey will help you become a better learner and a more advanced learner than you were before starting the journey.
That's great. So Aman is back again with us. Aman, can you hear us?
Yes, quite
All
better.
right, great. So do you have any question for any of these CTS?
Yeah, so my question was like, how to climb this mountain of CTA, how to become a CTA. Like, I'm just a 2.3 years experience candidate, but I am aspiring to be a CTA for my future. That's my future goal. So just want to start that path. You know?
Umar, you want to take that?
Yeah, I'll give my point of view. So I think for me, it would be, Aman, is what I would call appreciating and valuing the journey as much as possible, right? For me, when I look back, it was all the steps in the way, the challenges, right? If you look at it as the example of a mountain is always given. It's all the base camps that you need to climb, right? It's for me, the journey of learning, of building that muscle memory was important. I think practically speaking, Aman, make sure that you try and get exposed to as many different types of scenarios, use cases practically in your practical life as possible. And then, of course, in your professional life, of course, there is now a pretty structured path on Trailhead. You need to become system architect, application architect. Each of those have their own sets. So keep the end goal in mind, but then start, breaking it down bit by bit, I would say. Try and prototype, try and be hands-on as much as possible if you can. I don't know, Khalid or Sama, if you want to add something.
Maybe I can add to that. So I think if you look at it, Aman, if you look at the whole CDA program, there are two major parts to it. So the first part is technical, which you cover using the system and application architect path. So you learn all the domains which are important for a Salesforce architect. The other part, which is very important, is the soft skills part. So how do you present? How do you talk to a C-level executive? How do you go and present a solution to your customer? I think these things are very important as part of CTA. So just knowing those domains will not help you in achieving this big milestone, but knowing how to apply technology in what scenario, how do you present it, and how do you uh, respond to the challenges and curveballs thrown at you. uh, I think that will help you quite a lot. And you can practice. I mean, the easiest way to practice it is by experiencing it. So if you talk to your customers, I think you need to be very crisp about your solution, your ideas, and you need to be very clear about when you're challenged on your solution, you should be able to defend your solution. So I think these things are very important, and these are the things which can be deal breaker in achieving the CTA. So yeah, there are two parts: the technical part, which I think is easier given all the content available because of certifications, and then there's the important part and a difficult part, which is the soft skills part.
Yeah, I'm just going to add one thing here. So, Aman, the journey is different for everybody, right? I think all three of us sit on the other side of a table on a CTA exam now, where we are taking exam of other people, and every single candidate that comes to us is unique, right? For example, Osama, Omar probably had more experience in terms of the platform. I only had 16, 18 months of experience when I sat for the CTA board of Salesforce, right? But I had 20 years of technology experience before that. All right. So as Osama and Umar was saying, that there are professional architectural skills that you need before you can even think about doing the exam. And then there's a Salesforce part, which you can learn while you're working and exposed to Salesforce programs. Once you combine that together, you become a good architect, right? Irrespective of technology. And then once you understand Salesforce, you become a good Salesforce architect. And once you are a Salesforce architect, you will pass this exam, right? That and it doesn't matter that took you 18 months or that took you 10 years. But if you are thinking about the CTA, it's good that you're thinking about the CTA, right? This has probably been one of the most, let's say, evolution journey for me, right? I went in as a good IT professional. I came out as a extremely thorough architectural thinking person, where I understood how time management, where I understood communication, where I understood object handling, and I understood the value of a good architecture. Thanks.
Yep.
Thanks a lot. One more thing, like I just wanted to know, when I talk about technical architect, so is that something we do only with the coding? Like that person should only know the coding, as Osama was mentioning that a soft skill is also important, and you also added to that. So a person should only like the technical architect guy who is going to be like he should be more towards sound like a technically strong, or is it fine if he's going quite okay? As we all know that we all are in the learning phase towards the life in the entire life. That's what are the confusing things.
I'll go first. So an
Yeah.
architect has both a combination of business, solution, and technical skills. An architect is an architect, right? If he doesn't know it, he'll find it. If he doesn't know it, he will learn it and get you on the right path, right? So the first thing is you need to be a learner and an executor. A person who can grasp, ready to learn, and execute, right? So that's a skill that you will learn as a part of this journey. So you can't really say that you will not pass the exam if you don't have if you're not a good scripter or a good coder. But it doesn't also mean that if you don't have coding skills, you will pass the exam, right? So it's a combination of both. So you need to know about the Salesforce technology, right? If so imagine yourself as a top of the technical ladder and mountain of Salesforce, right? What are the skills that you need to be able to talk to a developer one day, and then and the next day talk to the CTO, and the next day talk to the board of directors, to be able to function as an ambassador and representative of Salesforce? It's quite broad. right? But there is no specific skill that you must be an expert specialist 100% on it, right? It's a combination of nearly everything.
And yeah,
That was good.
we have examples where people don't know how to code on Salesforce, but they are certified technical architects. So it just proves Khalid's point that you don't need to be a coder in order to become an architect. It's actually much bigger than that.
Yeah, exactly. It's the ability to solve problems for business requirements under a bit of time pressure, right? And you need to bring to bear functional knowledge, business knowledge, architectural knowledge. But I think if I understood your question correctly, you will probably not be pulled down into like Apex or you have to talk high level. But of course, there's certain areas where you may be expected to, the judges will see if you have that depth, whether it's security, whether it's integration, whether it's data model, and so on. But it's being able to pull together all that information into a cohesive solution that hangs together.
Thank you so much.
Hopefully that answered your question.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Just a small, it's a quite a confusion for me. So how is it different, like a consultant and a technical architect, or is it a very different path altogether, or there are some similarities?
So a consultant is okay. So let me start this way. An architect is an amazing consultant, right? Who is a problem solver, who is a leader, right? And who knows how to get things done, right? A consultants usually are somewhere who are not to that level, right? So yes, they might be really good in some specific areas, but basically they will struggle in other areas, right? An architect, or especially a technical architect, a person who has gone through the board, is a person who has actually been exposed to the wider areas of Salesforce. So when you come and talk about Salesforce, this guy is a guy who understands not only how security works in Salesforce, but how does information security work as a whole. What are the business issues, technical issues, technology issues, regulatory issues related to data, technology, people, resources, programs, and everything. So I think so a consultant might not have that exposure, or might not have all of that knowledge, but an architect will definitely have it.
Yeah, I mean, just to add to Khalid's point, one of the areas within the CTA exam is about governance, right? Which is all about design authorities, steer cores, standards, environments, DevOps, all of that, right? So it has to be one of my mentors said that it requires you to have knowledge which is a mile wide and 6 feet deep. So yes, very broad, and you need to be able to pull that together.
Thanks a lot. Actually, many of my doubts has been erased off now.
No, these are good questions. These are really good questions.
Amazing question. Don't doubt yourself, right? So the
Yeah,
first thing is
that's
to
what
have
I feel when I have such a good people, like, I had authority people like you. So I always feel like, is it the question which I'm asking will be right or something, like, will it, like, it's a very nonsense type of question. So that's what was running in my mind. But yeah, then I thought, no, let me ask it. If I don't ask it, then it will keep hanging around.
Wish you the best, Aman. Thank you.
Yeah, good luck, Aman, for that. Actually, there's one more thing that reminded me about with this Aman's questions. Can you please clear this myth or impression that CTA is a person who knows everything about Salesforce? He should know about every cloud. He should know every coding experiences. He does know everything about coding as well. Can you please enlighten this about?
What makes you think that's a myth? We are
Because many people
experts in everything.
Yeah, but
no, that's not a myth. That's
no,
real.
exactly.
Okay, no. So I actually made a statement quite early that Salesforce is growing very fast, right? So yes, it's a challenge for us to keep on top of everything, but as an architect, we know where to look, where to find, and we use our architectural knowledge, skill set, and of course all the tools and equipment provided to us as a part of this ecosystem, as a part of being a professional, to actually solve your problems for you. Some of those problems might be new for us. So let's say if you see the ever-growing Salesforce ecosystem, we also have to stay on top of it. So there is a specific level of effort which is continuously required by each and every one of us to stay on top of our learning. Right. Unfortunately, it's a part of the package, right? That we have to go through. But there's a skill that you also learn while becoming an architect. It's exactly where to look and how to find things out and how to solve problems, right? So one of the skills that I learned as becoming in the last 25 years of my this career is to how to solve problems, right? So I know that if I knew these skills, if I had this thought process, if I had this design process 20 years ago, I would have been able to save a lot of my sleepless nights that I sat in front of a computer trying to solve a problem, right? And that's a skill that you will learn with time, right? Some of us are really smart who can actually do that very quickly, but some of us need to basically knock our heads again and again to actually let that sink in.
That's what I was wanted to hear.
I might want to maybe just let's go maybe a couple of points to that. So you're not supposed to know each and everything. I think no one in the ecosystem can claim that they know everything. Neither the three of us. I think what's important is that with the growing with the evolution of the platform, you need to know where would you use certain piece of technology. You don't need to know how to configure that or how would you build solutions on that. For example, if a problem is given in front of you, you should be able to tell that whether if Commerce Cloud is the right solution or not. For example, right? But then no one will expect from you that you should know how to build solution on Commerce Cloud or how do you configure Commerce Cloud. But whether Commerce Cloud is the right solution versus building a portal on communities, I think this is something that is expected out of CTAs, right? So you need to be able to understand the pros and cons on a higher level. This is the expectation with the evolution of the platform. And this is something that we face in real world pretty much every day. You go, customers will ask you all these random questions. Then you always go have to look for the answers. So I think this is the expectation our customers have from us, that they are the ones that you should know each and everything. So the expectation that we set with our team is that at least you should be able to talk to on a higher level that what solution, what's the direction that the customer should take. So so yes, you don't need to know each and every cloud and each every solution, but at least you need to know what's the direction that the customer should be taking.
Yeah,
that's the same
100%.
thing.
Sorry, I
please
was
go
just going to add 100% agree with Sama and Khalid. And what I would add is I think we also know where Salesforce is not a good fit, where it may be off platform might be better use, right? So making that judgment call about scale, about use cases, I think at the very basic level, core platform, sales, service, CPQ, and where to fit in, say, the boxes of marketing or commerce, where they all fit together. I think that sort of knowledge, you may not be expected to go down, as Osama was saying, into the very depth, but knowing how they integrate and fit together.
Yeah, that's perfect. Actually, that's what I wanted to hear. So basically, architect is a solution. Basically, good. Ignore that. I'm sorry. I think that there are two more questions from Prashant. So one is
Sure.
that what are the few product gaps in Salesforce that you all have noticed in your experiences?
Great
Nice one.
question.
Yeah.
Who wants to take that?
Can I take,
I can give it a go.
take
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can.
I'll give it a go.
Khalid, you go first.
So I think, so I think Salesforce is, so I think one of the biggest advantages of being in Salesforce is Salesforce realizes there's a huge path ahead of us, right? If you look at our commitment towards giving 3 releases every year for the past 21 plus years, and that even to the future, we know that there are releases, and these releases are focusing on the new needs of the customer, right? So if you identify any single gap today, in the next 2 years, it won't stick there. Number one. Number two is that if you look at where we are buying or where we are investing, other technologies and products, those products or technologies were there supplementing technology gaps within Salesforce, right? There were gaps with integration, so now we have MuleSoft as a part of the package, right? There were gaps within reporting, enterprise-wide reporting, so now we have Tableau as a part of it, right? In terms of our deliverable or our functionality capabilities for core telecom, right? So we fill that up with the velocity. So basically, we are growing. There are and one of our jobs is to identify where we should grow, where the business is growing, right? Our whole commitment towards digital experience, the customer end user experience, capability, being able to declare first, and then once all of those options have been taken off the table, then you can also customize on the application. But it's our promise to you that we will continue to keep on growing and make sure that these whatever are your new needs are covered with the platform.
Yep.
Good answer.
I think just to also add to that, Khaled, I think innovation is one of the core values of Salesforce, and we're very transparent about it. I think any documentation you want to access, you don't even need to be a Salesforce customer. Any gaps that have been highlighted by customers on the idea exchange. I think one of the recent examples was, for example, where customers have very compute heavy workloads. So we have Salesforce functions where you can offload and you can call those declaratively using flows, for example, and so on. So there will always be areas to improve, but they are being plugged, limits are being increased, and as Khalid was saying, we only want to be, I think, in product areas where we can be one of the top players, right? So we're not gonna, you won't expect us to see in the ERP space, but where there's an adjacency or it makes sense, then we'll absolutely look to expand the footprint.
Yeah, I think one more thing that I would like to add is, if you want to be specific, if you want me to be specific about one thing that we feel there has been a gap, I think everyone in Salesforce identified a few years ago that Salesforce as a platform was built to serve the B2B space, but we were never there to serve B2C. But now, because of the evolution of the platform, acquisition of different B2C solutions, we felt that there is a need to address that gap. So 5 or 6 years ago, if a customer was to run their e-commerce business on Salesforce platform, that would have been very difficult and challenging. But over the years, because of all the investment which we have made on our infrastructure, on our application, and on our different layers on the platform, now customers have been able to at least start running their e-commerce solutions on our core platform, which is game changing, and which is why Umar was mentioning around computation and capacity challenges that we have solved over the last few years. So I think there's still a long way ahead of us, especially in B2C, and you'll see that we'll continue to invest in this space.
No, that's
I think one
great.
thing to add is, I know we're kind of over time, is Hyperforce and the possibilities that has opened up in different regions. If you want data closer to local markets for latency and for performance, I think that's gonna really open up a lot of avenues.
Yeah.
All right. I know that we have a very short time, but I believe that we have more questions. Actually, some of my questions wasn't answered, so I'll prefer the audience questions. So, let's go with the oldest one. So, can you provide few insights into CTA panel exam? Few insights about it.
Few insights.
Yeah. I know it's
Okay.
a very generic question. Yeah, but
Yeah, well, okay. So the panel exam is a 6-hour exam, right? That you have to do in one go, right? So basically, what happens on the day of the exam, that you get invited, or in the virtual world, you get invited into a room where the camera is looking at you, or a person sitting in front of you, who will actually hand you over a scenario that you have to solve, right? And now the time is 3 hours. So they will give you 3 hours to solve this exam. You can choose any technology. You can choose any paper, chart paper, board, anything that you want to solve that exam, right? After 3 hours, you're asked to leave the room, or you're asked to sign out, take a break for 15 minutes, and like in the virtual world, and then you come back. By the time you come back, you are exposed to 3 people, which actually asks you different questions, which want you to present your solution. So whatever you come up with in terms of the solution or the case study, you're supposed to present that for 40 minutes. And during this time, the presenter will not stop you. The time management and everything is totally up to you. At the end of that 40 minutes, you're expected to leave the room again, or leave that meeting, and rejoin after 15 minutes, where you will be asked Q&A. right? And that will go on for about another 45 minutes, and then after that you will be done with the exam, right? And then after that you'll be thanked, and then you can leave the room, and in the next few weeks you will be told the result of that exam. And that's how that day looks like, right? So it's basically about 5.5, 6 hours of commitment where you have to give total time during this thing, right? And it's a very it's 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 a very in-depth front face exam where you have to basically take questions and basically solve specific business problems, and then be able to justify why you solved them in a specific way, right? And it basically focuses on your ability to zoom up from a 10,000-foot level of a solution, and but also have the ability to also be able to talk on the ground foot level of how these things hang together.
All right. We have three more questions, so let's go with the one that came earlier. So, one advice you guys would give to fresh or junior developer in their path to become CTA?
I would say try and experience multiple projects, multiple industries. It's so important to understand different clouds and also different industries and use cases. For example, it's important to learn what happens in the banking industry, what happens in insurance industry, what happens in, let's say, retail. It's important to understand all of these use cases. So try and get exposure to multiple projects in various industries. It will help you with not only technical aspect of the exam, but it will also help you in building some business acumen as well, so that you can use that in your exam.
Right.
I think in addition, I would add, try and speak to business people, the end users. So if you're a junior developer, typically you'd be working in Jira, user story created, you focus on the acceptance criteria, lob it over the line, but then try and talk to some of the, what is the user experience? What is the motivation behind that? I think ultimately it'll help you connect the dots when you get that.
Yeah, it's an important one. I think it's very. This is something I've seen in a lot of candidates who come from highly technical backgrounds. So they can explain what is a trigger and how it works to their technical lead or an architect, right? It's very easy for them. But try and explain this to a business user or a business your business stakeholder. He doesn't understand technology, but try and explain your solution to him. This will be the real exam. Because when you are a CTA, you get exposed to all these senior stakeholders at your customers, and this is what is expected out of you, that you go and explain your solution to them. So I think it will come to try and keep practicing it, and it will come with experience. So this is something you need to experience if you are aiming for a CTA.
That's a very good answer. We have two more questions. Let's use the first. I mean, I know we are out of time, so if it's up to you. If you guys, you want me to take the more questions or just wrap it up?
Happy
All right,
to do that.
continue. Okay.
Happy to
All
go.
right. It's a fun one. So, heard from as Ikrar is asking that, heard from David Levy. He's a Salesforce MVP at works at Google. It requires hundreds of hours of preparation to pass CTA. Please let me know if that's the case. Then he further said that it's useless to invest unless you have a job offer for a huge money if you pass the exam.
This is Google. Okay.
I think
So
there's an
this is a
MVP works for
company.
Google. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So the
That's his
question
opinion.
is,
Yeah.
yeah. I think I mentioned before that when I gave my exam, I had about 18 months of experience on the Salesforce platform. Right. I joined Salesforce very recently in last 18 months before I sat and got in that room and gave my CTA exam. The journey is different for everybody, right? But on the other side, irrespective you're a CTA or you're not a CTA, you owe it to your customers and your profession to be an amazing architect. Right? An architect is the highest pinnacle of our profession, right? I mean, if you are a techie, right, you should be you should be having those skills so that you can do the right you can play the right role for your customers and do justice to the programs and projects, right? And that requires hundreds and thousands and maybe millions of hours of time anyway. right? Salesforce is a product which actually uses all of those skills, and the exam is basically a testament of having those skills, right? So a person who made it to Google, I'm sure they have hundreds and thousands and millions of hours of coding and technology experience anyway, right? So Salesforce is not a unique ecosystem which is very different from the rest of the technologies, right? It's based upon all the standards of integration, data, privacy, security, technology that you have as a whole, right? And then it has their own flavor to it. So that 18 months that I spent was the flavors of Salesforce. But the 20 years before then, there was being in touch with technology, right? So, okay, that's the first thing. Secondly, is that investment worth it? Of course. So the person who went, who would have talked to you before I went into that room or started to plan to go into that room, and the person who came out are very different people. But this journey is not only going to prepare you to become a good Salesforce architect, but be a better professional. Communication, object handling, being able to think on your feet, being able to know about technology, and being able to call yourself as one of the best Salesforce professionals in the world. So here's a fun part. And I think I heard this a few years ago after I did my CTS, that there are more astronauts in this world. That means that there are more people which have been to space in this world than there are actual CTS, and that is a reality.
I think it's a great
And
answer,
can I just,
Khalid. Yeah,
yeah,
go ahead, Usman. No, you go on.
just one point that there's one thing that I would like to add. If money is the only motivation for you to become a CTA, then that's probably not the right goal for you.
Yeah.
Like I think Khalid has explained it really well. As part of this process, you become a really good architect. And I don't know if all of you can get it now or not, but until or unless you go through this journey, I don't know if you can get it. But once you go through the journey, you will understand that what we're trying to say here, that you become a really good architect. You become a good professional, you become a good consultant to go and help customers. So that's the ultimate goal of this. So if money is, you can do so many other things to earn more money than a CTA. But so money is not the right motivation, I guess, to become a CTA.
That's
I think
great.
just to add very quickly to that, I think yes, there will be personal sacrifice. There will be time. In my own case, there were times, many weekends, personal time doing it. But I think I did it as a personal challenge. I personally, I think if it wasn't again for the money, but I think, as you said, you end up with these transferable skills in your toolkit through the journey that are applicable not only in the Salesforce ecosystem, but as an enterprise architect and as a broad technology professional. So I think the skills that you take along with you will stay with you for a long time.
Great. So there's one last question, but before that, actually, Pankuri has another question. But before going to that, I do have one question. Please answer that. Actually, there's a two part of this question. Let me rephrase one and then rephrase the second one. So, if I appear for the exam, what are the chances I will get you as a panelist? That's actually I made this up. The actual question is how the panelists are decided. Is it based on the region, or anybody can appear as a panelist for anyone's?
So I'm going to take that, guys. So the panelists, of course, they have to be CTS, right?
Right.
We have external people, which play a part in that judgment as well, which are judges as well. But these are selected by the Trailhead team based upon their experience, based upon their expertise, and based upon their giving back to the community, right? So again, all of us, as I said earlier, that all of us are involved in training the new breeds of CTAs within Salesforce, and even sometimes outside of it, right? That's a part of our role as becoming CTAs, as being CTAs in Salesforce. So there's an internal process that you have to go through for selecting the panelist, right? So before you become a panelist, there are a lot of hops that you have to go through, right? And a lot of those hops are. So I don't think I wanted to be a panelist, but I was going through those hops because I wanted to give back to the community. right? And once they understand the value that you are giving back and how you're involved back in the community, these things come to you on their own. And once you are over there, this is back to the trailhead program of how they select the right appropriate people who would be the most unbiased and the impartial judge in that board for that candidate, and that can be anyone in the globe. Right. So if I know I've seen Osama's and Umar's face at 3 a.m., 4 a.m. in the morning a lot of times, where we were helping people from other regions, right? And this is a common practice where we, depending on the need, we make ourselves available to help other people on this journey as well.
All right, thanks for the answer. The next one is, I'm sorry, we've been very late, but it's up to you. You want me to continue?
Go ahead.
Yeah.
All right. What is the difference between application architect and B2B solution architect? That's should not be the question, but it's up to you if you're gonna do that. I do have one more question if you want me to continue with that, or you want to answer it.
I can try and answer that.
Mm-hmm.
So in Salesforce terminology, application architect is someone who knows the configuration side of things on the core platform, right? I think if you go through the application architect learning path, you'll know what I mean. But I think B2B solution architect is different. B2B solution architect is more on it's more focused on the industry side of things. So if you have worked on CloudCraze, which is one of our products on for B2B commerce, so it plays an important part in becoming a B2B solution architect. But at the same time, it also talks about the end-to-end solution in a B2B space. So that would include your B2B commerce option. It includes your Service Cloud capability and also includes Marketing Cloud as well. So I think knowing how it all works and hangs together will make you a B2B solution architect.
All right, the last one. In your experience, did you notice customers leaving Salesforce and moving to other platforms? If so, what might be the reason other than the cost?
Umar mentioned something quite early on, I think, when he was talking about the skills required for you to be a better architect, is that understanding where Salesforce is suitable and where are the areas where Salesforce is not suitable, right? If you need a financial system, somebody to do your financial modeling, and you choose Salesforce for that, then you're already making a mistake, right? So this is not an unknown. Right? Yes, there are customers which actually thought Salesforce will solve their world for them, and it does. It does make their world a better place to live. But there are a lot of things that are not supposed to be done on the Salesforce platform, because Salesforce, irrespective that we are a platform, we are still focused on CRM. Right? Our Nasdaq ticker is called CRM, and that's our representation of technology. That's where we play. Now there are customers which, because of different reasons, are not a complete understanding of enterprise architecture, or basically getting really happy of the ability of for them to customize Salesforce. They start doing things that can easily be done in other platforms and other technologies, and they start customizing Salesforce for that, right? And some of them actually take it beyond a limit that is supposed to give you, right? Especially things like if I take you 5 years ago, there were a lot of governing limits that we have with respect to integration or data replication or Apex and stuff. Now a lot of those are becoming loose, because because right now, as Osama mentioned, from a B2B, primarily B2B space, we are moving into the B2C space, right? Our governing limits are growing, our architecture is growing. Now, if a customer made the wrong choices early on, or did not understand the value of Salesforce early on, or where to use it, then there will always be that gap, or there will always be that intention that maybe this is not the right tool. In my experience, I have not seen that, right? But these are not stories that we have not that we have not heard of, right? But then that's where your architectural and enterprise architectural, how things hang together, is really important, right? And as a part of the CTA journey, you will gain a lot of that as well.
I think good point. Just to add to that, I think revisiting your org health over time, or your org landscape, is key, because technical debt can that's when architect skills are so key, right? Having that right framework, that best practice in place is important to maintaining that. And yeah, over time you need to go and look back and see possibly some suboptimal decisions were taking place. Maybe you need to start over. Maybe you need to do a reset. Maybe you need to reorg or split the org. There are many different scenarios that we as architects face.
Right.
And
I think
sometimes
that's
it's
all.
just a political discussion.
Yeah,
Decision,
exactly.
political decision. Yes.
Any
All
other
right.
questions?
No, we are out of questions. Many people are thanking you, and I really like thank you so much. Thank you so much. I know we have been almost. It was for session for 30 minutes, but we went almost for 1 hour. So thank you so much for being. Actually, I personally feel like you also enjoyed answering these questions. So so
We
thank you
did.
so much for joining back again. I mean, I would love to spend more time with you. Maybe next time we'll have some fun chit chat instead of this ask the expert. So thank you so much again. I really enjoyed having this session.
Thank you, Hamza, and thank you to all the participants all over the globe who came and asked and joined our session.
Thanks for the
Yes.
Right, great.
questions. Thanks,
Guys,
guys.
thank you very much. And from all of us, good luck in your
All the
journey
best.
towards architecture. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks
Bye.
so much. All right. Bye,
Bye.
everyone.
Bye.